Welcome to our presentation about investing in Ethiopia. The team members are Maura Lerman, Nora Akian, Romy Nonix, and Sophie van Homissen. To introduce, we'll first discuss the country's environment on political, socio-economical, and geographical aspects. Then, we will describe how to do business, which company types, and in which sector are more adapted for investors, entrepreneurs, or to do partners with companies. Thereafter, we are going to mention the main cultural differences with Belgium and Ethiopia's business etiquette. And finally, we will give an insight to introduce the country's ambitious long-term development plan and vision. Our research is based on several federal websites and on other reliable sources such as articles or official statistics. We had the opportunity to have an interview with Ambassador Shamebo Fitamo Adebo and Minister Councillor II Eshetu Lezege Woldemenish Mikhail. The main focus of this paper is to guide Western investors and entrepreneurs who are looking to enter Ethiopia's market with general information and guidelines about how to do business with the locals.
So first we're going to talk about the political landscape. Ethiopia is a federal parliamentary republic, which means that the prime minister is the head of the government. Most of the governing power lies with them, although the country also has a president who gets elected by the House of People's Representatives every 6 years. The prime minister, who is the head of the government, is chosen by the parliament. Further, the country is divided into 9 regional states who are mainly based on ethnic majority in the population. The legislative power lies with the parliament, whereby the federal parliamentary has 2 chambers. The first one is the Council Federation, who counts 110 members. And the second one is known as the Council of People's Representatives, which holds about 547 members who are elected every 5 years in single seats. This house is responsible for passing legislation and for electing the president. Both are selected by the regional councils. Then we have the executive power, who is exercised by the government, with the chief of state being the only and first female president in Africa, Saleh Work. Besides her, it contains out of the prime minister and a council of ministers. Their main focus lies with enforcing the law and governance of the state. This system, whereby both parliament and government work together, is called multicameralism. And then last, we have the judiciary, which is more or less independent. It is exercised by the Federal Supreme Court, who consists of 11 judges. Then moving on to the geographical landscape, Ethiopia is located in the east of Africa, more specifically in the Horn of Africa, surrounded by 6 land boundaries, such as Djibouti, Eritrea, Somalia, Kenya, Sudan, and South Sudan. With a total surface of about 1 million square kilometers, it is the 28th largest country in the world. It has a wide range terrain with deserts along the eastern border to tropical forests in the south and an extensive Afromontane, which are subregions covering the plant and animal species. There is also an area that contains a series of rivers and lakes, most important one being Lake Tana, which is the source of the Blue Nile that runs all the way through to Sudan. Besides the tropical sites, Ethiopia is also a vast highland with central mountain range and dissected plateaus who are divided by the Great Rift Valley. Ethiopia's predominant climate type is a tropical monsoon with wide topographic induced variation. It thus varies between areas in the highlands, for example, there rules a cooler climate, and on the other side, in the major cities, the climate is more on the dry and hot side. The diversity of areas and a great variety in climate has made it possible for Ethiopia to produce all kinds of soils, natural vegetation, and raw materials. The country possesses around 36% of agricultural land, with their main crops being coffee, which holds about 90% of their exports. For further, they hold a wide selection of natural resources, such as gold, which owns about 21% of their total exports. So agriculture is a critical aspect for the country, since it is accounting for over 50% of gross domestic product and employing over 85% of the labor force. Now we have the last landscape, which is socioeconomic. Ethiopia has a population of about 115 million people. This number ranks them 12th most populous country in the world. To have reached this number, they are a very fast-growing country with a growth rate of 3.2% per year. Religion plays a big role in the country's high birth rate. The three predominant religions are Ethiopian Orthodox, Muslim, and Protestant. This results in child marriages and conservative roles of male and female, whereby women are expected to marry young and produce a big family. This has hindered the economy's ability to grow and develop at a more rapid pace due to the increased need for more resources. Ethiopia contains a great diversity of ethnicities and languages. Their population is divided over more than 80 ethnic groups who speak over 90 individual languages. Then moving on to education, which is a major aspect in this country because there rules a young population. The latest years have been very progressive for Ethiopia because about 100% of the children attend school, but there's only still a small percent of students who are achieving the basic learning. And on top of that, there are still about 2.5 million children who are not attending school, mainly because the access is limited to them, but also because there are still traditional gender norms, a high burden of domestic work, and long distances to school. So compared to the world averages, they rate a little bit lower. Unemployment, they do a little bit better. Over the last 10 years, the employment rate has definitely upgraded and increased, with only a short drop during the COVID-19 period. In the latest years, there were about 56 million people employed in Ethiopia. On the other hand, there's still a little part of the population unemployed, about 3.69%, which has also been increasing over the years. The positive side is that they do rank better than other countries in their continent. And the country has also reduced poverty and improved human development during the past years.
Starting a business in Ethiopia. Ethiopia itself has 6 types of companies, but the 3 most important ones are the sole proprietorships, the share companies, and the private limited companies. There is also a mandatory business registration, with the most important steps: the authentication of the company documents, to reserve a unique trade name, and obtaining a business license. Of course, are there also costs associated with it? Calculations show that the total will be around 170 euros, but keep in mind that this total only finances the registration part. Certain company types, such as the share companies and the sole proprietorships, requires a mandatory starting capital, which means you will need more money than the 170 euros and 1 cent. The best location to open a business is Addis Ababa. Addis Ababa is the Ethiopian capital, and this city is brimming with the infrastructure and transportation options. One of the best trumps of this city is that it has a railway which connected Addis Ababa with the country Djibouti. Right now, the tax overview. Ethiopia knows a few tax types. Here you can see the tax overview, with the most important tax, the corporate income tax, also called the tax on profit, which is in Ethiopia 30%. This is a very high number since this type of tax is the only source of revenue of the government in Ethiopia. There are two tax exemptions, the income tax exemptions and the customs duty exemptions, which means that in a few situations the person concerned is exempt from paying taxes. Exemptions are only for those who meet the various aspects such as the subsector, the investment type and the location itself. The graph of employment shows that the percentages of the agriculture, the industry and the services in Ethiopia has been the same. We can conclude out of this that Ethiopia is a country that is actually always up to date because they want to improve themselves. The best sectors to target and invest in. Ethiopia focuses on many different areas, which include industries that already exist, but also industries that still needs to be developed. The already existing ones are the agro-industry, the manufacturing industry, which includes the textile, leather and pharmaceutical, and the mining industry, which includes the oil, opals, gold and minerals. The industries that still needs to be developed are the IT industry, which includes the internet banking, the tourism and hospitality industry, which is for the Ethiopian citizens and the foreigners, and the banking/infrastructure industry.
Ethiopia and Belgium have two very different cultures which can be challenging to navigate as a Western investor. Ethiopia is a multicultural country, so it is important to respect this. There are many different languages such as English, Amharic, French, and Arabic, and many different religions. For example, Christianity, both Catholics and Orthodox, Islam, and even a small Jewish community. Ethiopia has a rich history as one of the oldest countries in the world, and their people are proud of this. Ethiopians are very welcoming of outsiders as long as they respect their traditions and customs in which they take a lot of pride. Hofstede's model shows us that Ethiopia has a clear hierarchy when it comes to power. For example, elders are the most important and respected people. Ethiopia is a collectivist society, which means that people are loyal and form close connections with not just their family, but their whole community. They are proud of their country and culture and expect foreigners to respect this. In the Ethiopian business sector, it is important to be low-key and focus on just your business. For example, Ethiopians do not like it when people try to interfere with their local politics. Another important thing is to have a balanced partnership where there's mutual benefits and respect for everyone involved. It is also beneficial to build personal relationships with people before starting a business together, as they will trust you more.
Now we are coming to the government analysis. The following points are worth mentioning since they have a notable impact on the economy and business of the country. First, Ethiopia is part of a number of agreements. This allows them to strengthen relationship with other countries, grow economically, continue social progress, and facilitate trade and exchange. The biggest and most notables are the Horn of Africa Initiative, the African Continental Free Trade Area, the Common Market of East and Southern Africa. Secondly, the recent peace agreement between the Ethiopian government and the TPLF opens new doors to reconstruct basic infrastructure and develop new ones. Now that the northern part of the country is becoming more stable and secure, the tourism sector has a great potential. Finally, the government has in recent years implemented many reforms and initiatives to open its economy to the private sectors. Different and advantageous tax packages and care services have been adopted to attract investors. As I go forward to the next slide, Ethiopia started a 10-year-long plan from 2021 to 2030, which is called African Beacon of Prosperity. To achieve their vision, 6 different objectives that you can see on the slide have been named. To achieve their goals, a wide range of areas are targeted, such as agriculture, manufacture, construction, mining and petroleum, trade, tourism, or urban development. To summarize Ethiopia's ambitious plan, it is worth mentioning that Ambassador Shamebo Fitamo Adebo used to describe his country: prosperity, well-being, partnership, and solidarity. Now, as Ethiopia begins to open up to private investments, it is also opening to foreigners that want to do business by improving their environment through different reforms and initiatives. But it is very important to not interfere in the country's politics. There are many areas in which it is possible to focus, such as agro-industry, manufacturing, mining, tourism, RT, and banking. As Ethiopians are very proud people of their history and heritage, it is essential to respect their religions, languages, traditions, and customs. Finally, it is worth mentioning that there are different women that have important roles in the business and politics of the country. For example, the President, Mrs. Saleh Work Zewde, as well as many seats of the cabinet and parliaments are female. In addition, several women ambassadors represent their country in Ethiopia. Now, finally to conclude, Ethiopia is in a prime location to do business and has a lot of growth opportunity. The country is committed to improve their infrastructure, their business environment, and their relationship with other nations. There are many different areas in which it is possible to invest or to start a business. As advice we can give to Western investors is to take into consideration the differences in culture and in business in both their own country and Ethiopia, as well as in Ethiopia within. The most important point, though, is to not interfere in the country's politics, as Ethiopians find it very important not to do. To close off, the future of Ethiopia looks very bright, thanks to their vision and their long-term growth development plan, African Beacon of Prosperity. Thank you for your attention.